When he have good opponents, he just lose. That's it. When he have Shavkat, if he talk too much, just look at your fight. That guy beat you 4 rounds. That's it.
Earlier today, Ian said that he beat Shavkat for 24 minutes. Was it right? Yeah. Oh, Carlos, excuse me.
He just Carlos.
Yeah, sorry.
He can beat Carlos, but he can beat everyone. But I'm not same like that, guys. I'm different.
Do you agree with? I saw your manager say this. Do you agree that Ian is going to run from you throughout the fight?
Sure, he has same style or every fight. He just run back and he just working for the point. I don't remember when he finished someone last time. I think he's good person, good guy, but he act like he's like bad boy, something like this. But I tell in the interview also, we'll make him humble, we'll make him good guy.
If I go out there and I scalp him in 2 minutes, do you want to see me fight him again straight away? Do you know what I mean? That's just the way it is. If we have a back and forth war like he had with Volkanovski, then it probably would warrant a rematch. But also, there's many other challenges here that are exciting at the same time. So let's get through Saturday night. Let's get the win, and then we'll see in what fashion I get the victory and if there's a rematch on the cards. But I wouldn't be against it. I think he's earned enough to do it. But let's get through Saturday night first. I just kind of felt like yesterday he didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be at the face-off. I sensed a little bit of like nervous energy from him.
You talked about how this is pretty black and white, striker versus grappler, maybe the most extreme example of that in UFC history. But if he does bring it to the areas that he's good at, to the ground, how comfortable are you dealing with that? And also, do you feel like you still, after all these years, don't get enough credit for your grappling?
Grab my leg and find out.
And when you're looking at your opponent, what do you think will be your biggest challenge going against him?
No, it's not gonna be my biggest challenge. He just good, I give him respect. He have good skills, but everybody knows my game, and we'll see how he prepare for that.
Come on, Savannah.
3, 2, 1, face off.
As the fight draws closer, Islam Makhachev and Ian Machado Garry are preparing to settle one of the most highly anticipated matchups in the UFC. With the fight nearly here, the entire conversation has changed. This is no longer about distant predictions or what might happen months from now. Every training session is complete, every game plan has been tested, and every prediction is being analyzed more closely than ever. There is no longer time for major adjustments. The preparation is finished, the strategies are in place, and both fighters must now trust the work they have put in. Islam Makhachev is preparing to defend his dominance and prove that his grappling can control the welterweight division. Ian Machado Garry is preparing to shock the champion and silence every doubter who believes he cannot survive Islam's pressure. As the fight door closes, all the speculation will disappear. The only things left will be the cage, the championship, and the fighter who can execute under the brightest lights.
Wouldn't be that surprised that these are the two best guys in welterweight division, and I think it's a tough fight. But again, we're talking about Islam Makhachev. He's getting a little bit older now, but he's still in his prime. Seen multiple guys say how strong he is. Once he gets older, guys, they don't seem to be able to escape. I can't think at any point that Islam is going to lose.
Every aspect of this fight. Now, the striking, Ian Garry, what are the obvious things? Very tall, the tallest opponent that Islam has ever faced to date.
Yeah.
Habib and Islam also said that he's very hard to hit because he moves a lot. You know, he tends to run, and Islam said the only thing in camp that I really haven't enjoyed is having to chase fighters down, because we're preparing specifically for Ian and how much he uses the cage and kind of disengages and only really re-engages on his own terms.
Right.
But Islam's also a great striker in his own right. I think because his grappling is so good, he doesn't get a lot of credit for being a really good striker, and he actually is a very good striker. So let's start there. You know, it's going to be open stance mostly, left-handed for Islam, going to be fighting out of southpaw. Ian fights orthodox, so we're going to have an open stance likely for the majority of the fight, which I know you love to break those down.
Yeah,
So what are you seeing on the striking in this one?
Yeah, this is really interesting. Ian Garry is obviously a great striker, and that's how he's been able to win most of his fights and get to a title shot. But Islam Makhachev's striking is actually slept on, and it's largely because he comes from Dagestan, and everybody knows Khabib was the guy who set the precedence, and they have great grappling from there. But the Dagestani strikers or fighters are becoming really high-level strikers. Just look at Usman or Magomedov.
More knockouts than any other method of victory.
Exactly. So I am actually loving how Islam's striking is coming along. His kicks are great. He's got really good discipline with his jab hand. So whenever he does throw a combo or closes distance to try to land some strikes, when he exits, he's really good about putting a jab in your face just to sort of keep you at bay. It usually doesn't land, but it's really good to get something out there and in the line of fire from what Ian Garry or anybody else in the past.
PM, Renato Moicano, Dustin Poirier. As much as Dustin Poirier is a legend of the sport, they're not as dangerous as the guys I've just mentioned. Not only that, every single one of them is bigger, longer. Shavkat was 18-0 and 18 finishes when I fought. Carlos Praches had an 11-fight win streak by knockout when I fought him. When I step into this octagon against Islam Makhachev,
Will Ian Machado Garry be able to create the kind of fight that pulls Islam Makachev away from his preferred rhythm? Or will the champion impose his style before Garry has a chance to establish his own? That is the question driving so much discussion around this matchup. This is not a fight that can be evaluated through one simple advantage. It is not only about Islam's grappling or Garry's striking. There are multiple layers to the contest, and any one of them could determine the outcome. Distance will decide who controls the exchanges. Timing will determine who lands first. Wrestling and clinch control will reveal who can force the other fighter into uncomfortable positions. Defensive reactions will matter whenever Islam attacks the legs or Garry tries to escape the fence. Then there is cardio. If the fight becomes a long battle of pressure and movement, both men will be forced to maintain discipline when fatigue begins to affect their decisions. Garry must continue moving without giving up his technique, while Islam must keep closing the distance without wasting energy chasing an elusive target. Composure may be just as important. Garry cannot panic if Islam gets close, and Islam cannot become frustrated if the challenger refuses to stand and trade. Most importantly, both fighters will need to make adjustments. The first game plan may work for only a few minutes. After that, the fighter who reads the changes faster could begin to take control. That is why the face-off reactions have become so interesting. The tension, the eye contact, and the body language may offer clues about confidence, but once the fight begins, only adaptation will matter. Garry wants to force Islam into a rhythm he does not control. Islam wants to impose his style before Garry can create one, and the fighter who wins that opening battle may control everything that follows.
Believing Ian Garry is going to beat Islam, because it's starting to feel that way. Just a little more and a little more. Charles Oliveira, just to throw a name at you, a guy that knows everybody, has the right to an opinion. He said Ian Garry is going to win. That's interesting. Ian Garry is a stand-up fighter from Ireland who idolizes Conor McGregor. So now we know everything we need to know about Ian Garry. He's a sharpshooter. He's going to use his hands. He's going to use his kicks. He can't do any jiu-jitsu. But then somewhere along the way, he started training with Damian Maia. And it was an interesting coincidence because he ended up on bottom against MVP with his back taken, but was never in trouble. So then we're going to go, okay, great. You had problems grappling with this guy, MVP, who's not a grappler. You got real big problems now because you're going to fight Rakhmonov, who's going to expose everything that you don't know. And it turned out that punching and kicking Irish kid had spent some time in the wrestling room, right? I mean, he just looked better than we knew that he was. Enters the 5-round club, deals with it. And one thing that he had to deal with that night, Ian Garry has never fought where he was not bolstered up and he was the guy. Ian Garry's never done a ring walk where the audience knew this guy's overwhelmed. He's done that to other guys, but he's not been in that position. How does a guy do? Guys act one way when they're the favorite, but they seldomly act the same way as an underdog, and vice versa. Some guys will do their best work as underdog. Some guys actually get drawn down when you got an audience saying, I don't know, this could be a hard one. That seeps into them. But it didn't seep into Garry. So how are you going to beat him?
Islam Makachev enters this matchup with the reputation of a fighter who refuses to let his opponents dictate the action. His greatest advantage is not one particular technique. It is the way he connects every phase of mixed martial arts into one continuous attack. Islam can begin with a feint or a strike, forcing his opponent to react. The moment that reaction appears, he closes the distance and enters the clinch. From there, he can attack the legs, work for a body lock, drive his opponent toward the fence, and search for the takedown. But the danger does not end once the fight reaches the ground. That is where Makhachev becomes even more difficult to deal with. He does not simply take an opponent down and pause. He continues moving, changing positions, controlling the wrists, applying pressure, and forcing his opponent to defend one problem after another. Every escape can create another opening. If an opponent gives up his back, Islam can attack a submission. If they try to stand, he can control their legs or drag them back down. If they turn into him, he can use pressure and position to keep them trapped underneath him. This constant chain of attacks is what separates Makhachev from a fighter who relies on only one wrestling technique. He does not need every attempt to succeed immediately. He only needs to keep creating reactions until his opponent makes a mistake. That presents a major challenge for Ian Machado Garry. Garry may be able to defend the first takedown, but he must also defend the clinch, the second entry, the cage pressure, and the transitions that follow. One successful escape may not be enough if Islam immediately attacks again. For Garry, the goal is to interrupt that chain before it begins. He must keep the fight at long range, avoid being trapped against the fence, and punish Islam whenever the champion moves forward carelessly. But if Makhachev connects his striking, clinch work, wrestling, and ground control together, Garry may find himself fighting several battles at once. And against Islam Makhachev, that is usually when the fight begins to slip away.
Oh man, that fight, when is gonna be that fight? October, I think? October, August? So, man, it's hard to be against Islam Makhachev, you know? I think he's super good. Looks like the division fits perfect to him. Ian Garry has an amazing footwork, amazing head movement, a really good distance, but I don't know, man. I think I'm going with Islam Makhachev for sure.
If someone gave you $10,000 right now to bet on that fight, where are you putting it?
I think the odds, because of the style, favors Makachev probably. You know, stylistically, he's a freaking nightmare to fight for anyone. He's, I think, right now the best pound for pound on the planet. But Ian Garry definitely has all the chance also on his side to do it. He's a very good striker. He's very long. He's great grappling, a great grappler as well. But you need, I think, to find a way to keep the fight standing, you know, like, and to use his style to his own advantage.
The highest level of MMA fights against the toughest opponents. When I step into this octagon against Islam Makhachev, I'm going to prove to the world why Ian Machado is truly great. I've never been submitted. I've never been knocked out. I know what I'm capable of. And Islam Makhachev is amazing at what he does. But I know I'm able to handle everything else thrown. I know that, and I know how good he is. I respect him as a fighter so much. I've seen his dominance. I have seen his dissection of people. It's beautiful to watch. I know I'm able to do.
As UFC 330 reaches its most intense stage, Ian Machado Garry is not entering the octagon simply to survive Islam Makhachev. He is entering to prove that he belongs among the very best fighters in the world. Garry has made it clear that he respects Islam's skill, experience, and dominance. He understands the danger of facing one of the most complete grapplers in MMA. But respect does not mean fear. Garry believes he can defeat Makhachev, and he believes he can do it in a way that very few opponents have managed before. For years, Garry has focused on developing his takedown defense. He has trained to deny wrestlers, break their grips, escape dangerous positions, and destroy their momentum before they can establish control. His goal is not simply to stop Islam once. It is to make Islam question every entry. If Makhachev shoots and Garry immediately returns to his feet, the champion is forced to start again. If Islam pressures him toward the fence and Garry escapes, the challenger gains confidence while Islam loses valuable energy. Every failed attempt can become a psychological victory for Garry. That is the kind of fight the Irish challenger wants to create. Garry is not planning to abandon his striking or spend the entire fight defending. He wants to make Islam pay for every mistake, punish him at range, and force him to fight in areas where the champion may not feel completely comfortable. But the challenge is enormous. Makachev has built his career by turning small openings into complete control. He does not need a perfect entry. He only needs one moment when Garry's feet stop moving, his back touches the fence, or his balance shifts in the wrong direction. Garry respects that danger, but he believes believes he has prepared for it. He believes his height, movement, fight IQ, and defensive wrestling can neutralize Islam's greatest weapon. More importantly, he believes that once the champion realizes he cannot control the fight on the ground, the entire matchup will begin to change. This is not a challenger stepping into the cage hoping to last 5 rounds. This is a fighter who believes he can dismantle the champion's game plan, deny his pressure, and prove that Ian Machado Garry is far more than a confident striker. He wants to show that he has the tools to handle everything Islam Makhachev brings, and defeat him in a way that changes the entire UFC welterweight division.
Takedowns, not allowing them to have that success, not allowing them to get their momentum flowing, and irritate and frustrate and punch them in between, and find every way possible to prevent them from having success and allow me to shine. Look at the Shavkat fight, right? I stopped, between Shavkat and Bilal, I stopped 15 of 17 takedowns. I've been unbelievably elite at stopping people getting me down. I've never been submitted. I've never been knocked out. I know what I'm capable of. And Islam Makhachev is amazing at what he does. But I know I'm able to handle everything else thrown. I know that, and I know how good he is. I respect him as a fighter so much. I've seen his dominance. I have seen his dissection of people. It's beautiful to watch.
Ian Machado Garry has added even more fuel to the build-up by making a bold comparison between his resume and Islam Makhachev's. Garry believes the opponents he has faced have prepared him for a more dangerous and physically demanding battle than the one Islam has experienced recently. He points to elite names such as Shavkat Rakhmonov, Belal Muhammad, Carlos Prates, and Michael MVP Page as evidence that he has already been tested against fighters with different styles, skill sets, and threats. In Garry's view, those fights forced him to deal with explosive striking, high-level wrestling, technical pressure, and unpredictable movement. Each opponent demanded a different solution, and Garry believes that experience has made him more adaptable. Makhachev's resume is also filled with elite competition. He has faced some of the most respected fighters of his generation, including Dustin Poirier and Alexander Volkanovski. Those victories established Islam as one of the most dominant champions in the sport. But Garry argues that his own recent path has been more difficult in a different way. He believes he has been forced to fight larger, longer, and more unpredictable opponents, fighters who tested his defense, composure, endurance, and ability to adjust under pressure. According to Garry, those experiences have prepared him for the specific problems Makachev brings. This comparison is more than simple promotion. It reveals how Garry sees the fight. He does not believe he is entering the octagon as an inexperienced challenger facing an unstoppable champion. He believes his past battles have already prepared him for the highest level of pressure, and that the lessons from those fights will give him an advantage when Islam tries to impose his grappling. But there is another side to the argument. Makhachev's experience against elite opponents has shown that he can adapt, remain calm, and dominate even when the fight does not follow his original plan. His victories over top-level competition have given him the confidence to stay patient until the right opening appears. So the real question is not simply whose resume looks more impressive. It is whose experience will matter more when the fight becomes chaotic. Garry believes his past opponents have prepared him to survive Islam's pressure and punish his mistakes. Makachev believes his own experience has prepared him to neutralize every weapon Garry brings. When the cage door closes, those claims will finally be tested.
The people we've fought. So if you look at my last 5 opponents versus Islam's last 5 opponents, in my opinion, it's not a discussion who's more difficult. When you look at who I fought, Belal Muhammad, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Carlos Prates, MVP, those 4 are 4 of the trickiest fighters on the planet. All of them present real danger. When you look at JDM, Renato Moicano, Dustin Poirier, and the other 4th one I think was Volkanovski, if I'm correct.
I believe so, yeah.
As much as Volkanovski is a legend of the sport and Dustin Poirier is a legend of the sport, they're not as dangerous as the guys I've just mentioned. Not only that, every single one of them is bigger, longer. Shavkat was 18-0 and 18 finishes when I fought him. He had like 10 knockouts and 8 submissions. Carlos Prates had an 11-fight win streak by knockouts when I fought him. I've been fighting the highest level of MMA fights against the toughest opponents. when I step into this octagon against Islam Makhachev, I'm going to prove to the world why Ian Machado.
Ian Machado Garry's strategy is straightforward. Defeat Islam Makachev by any means necessary. But that does not mean fighting recklessly or taking unnecessary risks. Garry's approach is built around calculated efficiency. Every second must have a purpose. Every movement, strike, and defensive reaction must help him control the fight and slowly weaken the champion. Garry understands that giving Islam even a brief moment of comfort could be dangerous. Makachev only needs a small opening to close the distance, connect his hands, and begin a chain of grappling attacks. That is why Garry wants to stay active from the opening bell. He must make the right decisions under pressure, create damage whenever an opportunity appears, and never allow Islam to settle into his rhythm. The goal is not simply to land one spectacular shot. It is to make Islam work continuously. Garry wants to maintain a safe distance, attack with long punches and kicks, force Makachev to miss, and punish him every time he moves forward. Each successful exchange should take something away from the champion, his energy, his confidence, or his ability to pressure effectively. This is a game plan based on discipline. Garry cannot afford to become emotional or chase a finish that is not available. He must remain patient, protect himself from the takedown, and gradually break Islam down over the course of the fight. The challenger's objective is clear: create damage, deny control, and make every moment uncomfortable for the champion. He is not stepping into the octagon hoping that Islam makes a mistake. He is planning to force Islam into making one. But the biggest test will come in the opening minutes. Garry must start fast enough to establish respect, yet remain composed enough to avoid giving Islam an early opportunity to attack. If he can get off to a strong start, maintain distance, and consistently make the correct decisions, he may be able to turn his strategy into one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. For Ian Machado Garry, victory is not about one perfect moment. It is about winning every moment until Islam Makachev has nowhere left to go.
How important is it to you, and how do you ensure that you get off to a good start? I would not want to be down after round one in a fight this highly competitive, this highly skilled. Is that something that you have discussed? And like, am I making too much of that, or is a quick start very important in this fight?
I've not thought about it like that. I think about going in there and beating him by any means necessary. It doesn't matter how the first second goes. It doesn't matter how the last second goes, or anything in between. As long as I'm doing everything in that moment to make the right decision, to cause the most beautiful violence I possibly can, and do everything correct to get my hand raised. By any means necessary. To get my hand raised against Islam Makachev is hard.
Dustin Poirier believes the most important part of this matchup may not be Garry's striking. It may be what happens after Islam Makachev gets him down. Poirier has pointed to Garry's previous fights against strong wrestlers and identified several areas that deserve close attention. How Garry performs when his back is against the cage, how well he fights for inside position, and how quickly he can return to his feet after being taken down. Those details could decide the entire fight. Garry may be able to defend the first takedown, but Poirier does not expect him to stop every attempt. The real test will begin after Islam finally gets him to the ground. Can Garry build a frame, protect his neck, fight for underhooks, and create enough space to stand without giving up his back? That last part is especially dangerous. Makachev is not satisfied with simply putting opponents on the mat. He can control their hips, attack their back, isolate an arm, and force them to defend several threats at once. A desperate attempt to stand could expose Garry to a back take or a submission. Poirier's own fight with Makachev demonstrated how difficult that cycle can be. Even after defending several takedown attempts, Poirier was eventually forced into extended grappling exchanges and submitted by a Darce choke in the 5th round. That experience explains why Poirier sees the takedown as only the beginning of the problem. Garry does not necessarily need to defend every entry, but he must recover quickly whenever Islam succeeds. If Garry can return to his feet without giving up his back, he can reset the fight and regain the advantage of his range. But if Islam keeps him grounded, forces him to carry weight, and makes him scramble repeatedly, the physical and mental damage could build with every round. Poirier has summarized the challenge clearly. Garry must keep Islam at the end of his punches, stay away from the fence, and use smart footwork. But even then, the first takedown will probably happen. The decisive question is what Garry does next. Can he escape before Islam establishes control, or will Makhachev's relentless pressure drown him once the fight reaches the mat?
I need to go back and see Ian Garry fight some wrestlers, see his takedown defense, see his wall work, his get-ups. I need to see a little bit more, just refresh my memory on his grappling, because obviously Islam's going to drown him, I think, but I need to see how good he is in those.
One major concern is that Garry may not be able to use his full kicking arsenal without taking a serious risk. Against Islam Makhachev, a kick is never just a strike. If Garry leaves his leg extended for too long, Islam can catch it, attack the ankle or knee, and immediately turn the exchange into a takedown. Alexander Volkanovski has explained that Makhachev is particularly dangerous whenever he can get hold of an opponent's foot, knee, hips, or legs. That means Garry may need to rely more heavily on his hands, the jab, straight punches, feints, and long-range combinations. His goal will be to keep Islam outside without giving the champion an easy opportunity to catch a kick and change levels. But there is a serious problem with that strategy. Garry often moves backward while striking. That movement helps him avoid danger, but it can also reduce the power in his punches and allow Islam to keep advancing. If Garry continues giving ground without making Makachev respect his counters, the champion may gradually walk him toward the fence. And the fence is where the danger multiplies. Once Garry's back reaches the cage, he loses the space he needs to escape. Islam can close the distance, attack the body lock, target a single leg, and keep working until Garry is forced to the mat. UFC analysts have identified cage pressure and the moment immediately after a kick has key opportunities for Makachev to enter. So Garry cannot simply move away from Islam for 25 minutes. He must also make Islam move backward. That means using the jab with authority, throwing combinations instead of single shots, attacking the body, and occasionally standing his ground to punish Islam's forward pressure. If Garry only retreats, Makachev will continue advancing until the striking range disappears. The challenge for Garry is finding the balance between safety and aggression. He must remain elusive without becoming passive. He must protect his legs without abandoning his kicks completely. And he must use his movement to create angles, not merely to escape. If Garry can keep his back away from the fence and force Islam to respect his punches, he may be able to maintain the fight at long range. But if he constantly gives ground, Makachev could patiently close the distance and drag him into the grappling battle he has been trying to avoid.
Ian might have to fix is he's very kick heavy, right? He loves that push kick to the lead leg. Yep. He loves to kick to the body, and he also does like to kick to the head quite often. But you really can't afford to do that against Islam or anybody from Dagestan for that matter. They're really good at catching kicks. They'll absorb it. They know how once the kick's coming this way, they sort of step in the direction of the kick's coming and then catch it, and then they've got good grips, so they don't let go of that. They wind up on top of you or in some sort of body lock position, which again is right where Islam wants to be. So I'm interested to see how Ian Garry takes some of the kicks out of his game and out of his arsenal and relies more on his hands, because at the end of the day, I don't think he has much of a chance on the ground. Even though he might not get submitted, I don't think he can get out from under Islam Makhachev, and I don't think it would be wise to kick very much against Islam because Islam's so good with catching kicks and turning that into grappling. So I think he's going to have to largely do what we saw Sean Strickland do with Khamzat Chimaev, which Sean is known for the jab and the push and teep kicks, but he kind of took the push and teeps out of the equation against Khamzat, and that's how he was able to win. It was basically a striking match with his hands. Ian's going to have to do a lot of that, but he also moves backwards, which takes pop off your shot. Just like people say it's hard to wrestle while moving backwards, it's also hard to land with power.
The analyst makes a surprising argument. Islam Makhachev may actually hold the striking advantage over Ian Machado Garry. At first, that sounds unexpected. Garry is the taller fighter, the longer fighter, and the more natural range specialist. On paper, those advantages should make him the more dangerous man at distance. But MMA is not fought like a pure boxing match. Garry must constantly worry about the takedown. Every time Islam steps forward, Garry has to consider whether the next movement will be a punch, a kick, or a level change. That hesitation can affect his striking. He may throw less freely, hesitate before committing, or leave himself vulnerable while trying to escape. Islam does not face the same problem. Because Garry is focused on defending the takedown, Makachev may be able to strike with greater freedom. He can pressure behind his boxing, attack the legs, target the body, and force Garry to react before the wrestling even begins. His strikes do not need to knock Garry out immediately. They only need to push him backward and limit his options. That is where the cage becomes dangerous. If Islam consistently forces Garry backward, the challenger's punches may lose power. Moving backward can reduce his balance, weaken his counters, and make it harder for him to stop the champion's forward pressure. Instead of using his reach to control the fight, Garry may find himself spending the entire contest trying to escape. Makhachev's striking could then become a trap. Islam can pressure with punches, attack the legs, and make Garry retreat. Once Garry's back approaches the fence, Islam can change levels and attack the takedown. Garry may believe he is defending a striking exchange, only to discover that the real objective was to guide him into a position where escape becomes difficult. This is why some analysts believe Islam could outstrike Garry before taking him down. The champion does not necessarily need to rush into a wrestling exchange. He can use his striking to create the conditions for it. Garry's answer must be to make Islam respect his counters. He cannot simply move backward for 5 rounds. He must use his jab, straight punches, and timely combinations to force Islam to hesitate. If Garry can make the champion pay for every step forward, his range may become a major advantage. But if Islam walks through the punches, keeps Garry retreating, and gradually closes the cage around him, Makachev may win the striking battle before the grappling battle even begins.
Islam, or however you look at it.
Right.
So, you know, when I first started doing tape study for this particular fight, in my head I was like, okay, I'm probably going to go striking advantage for Ian, obviously grappling advantage for Islam Makhachev, and then we'll kind of look and see what we can figure out on the intangibles. But the more I watched, I actually kind of want to give the striking advantage to Islam Makhachev because I believe that he can strike more freely than Ian can because of the threat of the takedown, which we'll get more.
One prominent analyst is firmly backing Islam Makhachev, arguing that the champion has more paths to victory than Ian Machado Garry. The reasoning is simple. Islam can win in multiple ways. He can pressure Garry with striking, close the distance, dominate the clinch, secure takedowns, control him on the ground, or search for a submission. Even if the fight remains competitive for all 5 rounds, Makachev has the composure and technical discipline to win a decision. But this analyst does not expect the fight to last that long. He believes Islam's elite grappling will eventually overwhelm Garry over 25 minutes. The challenger may be able to defend the first takedown or escape an early ground position, but surviving one exchange is not the same as surviving an entire fight against Makachev. Islam's pressure constantly creates new problems. If Garry defends the legs, Islam can attack the body lock. If Garry tries to stand, Islam can control his hips or take his back. If Garry turns into him, the champion can use that reaction to advance position or attack a submission. That chain of attacks could gradually drain Garry's energy and confidence. The analyst believes Garry will struggle to remain composed once Islam begins holding him down, forcing him to carry weight and making him defend every movement. As the rounds progress, the challenger's escapes may become slower, his reactions may become less precise, and the openings for Islam may become larger. That is why the prediction is so confident. The analyst expects Makachev to secure his first welterweight finish, with the most likely outcome coming in the 3rd or 4th round. The prediction is not based on one perfect technique, but on the belief that Islam's pressure will eventually break Garry's resistance. Garry's only chance is to keep the fight standing, maintain distance, and force Islam to work without establishing control. But if Makachev gets Garry to the ground and begins connecting his attacks together, the champion may prove that he has too many weapons for the challenger to handle.
Islam also is really good at eating time off the clock. So when you see him in there and he's able to strike with a guy at a competent level, I mean, Jack Della Maddalena was a former champion.
He's still a very good striker.
Right.
You know?
I mean, he obviously Carlos Prates beat him. He's having a tough go right now. But Jack Della Maddalena was the world champion for a reason, and he looked like he didn't belong in there with Islam. Islam may not have a finish yet at 170, but I do predict whenever he fights Ian Garry, he gets his first finish as a welterweight.
The analyst gives Islam Makhachev the advantage in almost every category: striking, grappling, fight IQ, experience, and overall composure. That may sound surprising because Ian Machado Garry is the taller and more natural long-range striker, but the analyst believes Islam's striking becomes even more effective because it is connected to the threat of the takedown. Garry cannot focus only on defending punches. Every time Islam moves forward, he must also prepare for a level change. That hesitation could limit Garry's offense and allow Makachev to pressure him without taking unnecessary risks. On the grappling side, the analyst sees an even clearer advantage for the champion. He expects Islam to attack repeatedly rather than rely on one takedown attempt. If Garry stops the first entry, Makachev can immediately switch to another attack, drive him toward the cage, or force him into a clinch exchange. The problem for Garry is that defending one takedown does not end the danger. He must defend the next attempt, protect his back, fight for underhooks, and escape without giving Islam a dominant position. Every scramble could drain his energy, while every failed escape could give the champion more control. That is why the the analyst believes Islam will gradually break Garry down on the ground. The prediction is a 3rd or 4th round submission, with Makhachev's pressure eventually becoming too much for the challenger to withstand. The analyst expects Garry to show moments of resistance early, but believes the champion's constant attacks will slowly remove his movement, confidence, and ability to recover. For Garry to prove this prediction wrong, he must keep the fight standing, maintain long range, and punish Islam every time he attempts to close the distance. But the analyst's final view is clear. Makhachev has too many paths to victory, while Garry may have only one. Islam by dominant submission in the 3rd or 4th round.
Towards Islam Makhachev for me. So I'm giving intangible advantage to Islam, which means I'm giving him striking, grappling, and intangibles. And before I hand it back to you, I've kind of let the cat out of the bag. Let me go ahead and make my prediction. This is underdog summer, but Labor Day's coming early this year. Islam Makhachev is going to run away with this fight. I think that he's going to take Ian down at will, and I actually like him to get a finish. I think he's going to submit Ian in the 3rd.
Tom Aspinall is also backing Islam Makhachev, although he admits that the champion is no longer at the beginning of his career. Islam is getting older, but Aspinall still believes he is operating firmly within his prime. In his view, age has not taken away the qualities that make Makhachev so difficult to defeat. His timing, discipline, physical strength, grappling pressure, and ability to stay calm when a fight becomes chaotic. Aspinall expects a brutal test for both fighters. He understands that Ian Machado Garry has the size, movement, and striking ability to create problems, especially if he can keep the fight at long range. But despite recognizing Garry's danger, Aspinall cannot see a realistic path to victory for the challenger. His prediction is based on the belief that Islam has too many answers. If Garry keeps his distance, Makhachev can pressure him. If Garry tries to counter, Islam can change levels. If Garry reaches the fence, the champion can begin his clinch and takedown attacks. For Aspinall, the question is not whether Garry is talented enough to make the fight competitive. The question is whether he can maintain the perfect level of movement, defense, and decision-making required to stop Islam for 5 complete rounds. And Aspinall simply cannot imagine that happening. The respect for Makhachev is shared by Arman Tsarukyan, who believes Islam belongs at the very top of the pound-for-pound rankings. Coming from an elite lightweight contender who understands the champion's world better than most, that endorsement carries serious weight. Tsarukyan's message is clear. Even in a division filled with dangerous contenders, Islam remains the fighter everyone else is chasing. Garry may be one of the biggest challenges waiting in front of him, but Aspinall and Tsarukyan believe the champion's experience, versatility, and composure will be enough to keep him on top. Islam may be getting older, but according to Aspinall, he is still very much in his prime, and still too complete to dethrone.
Number 1 pound for pound is Islam. Number 2 is Ilya. Do you agree with those rankings?
Yeah, that's fair. So I think Islam number 1.
In the end, Islam Makhachev versus Ian Machado Garry is shaping up to be a true war of styles, preparation, and confidence. Garry believes his takedown defense, movement, size, and experience can expose Islam in ways no opponent has managed before. He is confident that he can keep the fight standing, frustrate the champion, and punish him whenever he attempts to close the distance. But the analysts see a completely different outcome. They believe Makhachev's pressure, improving striking, and world-class grappling could eventually overwhelm the challenger. Islam does not need to win every exchange immediately. He only needs to keep advancing, force Garry toward the fence, and continue attacking until the challenger's defense begins to break down. Dustin Poirier has questioned whether Garry can survive Islam's relentless wrestling and cage pressure once the fight becomes physical. Tom Aspinall and several other elite voices have gone even further, saying they simply cannot see a realistic path for Garry to defeat the champion. That is why the majority of predictions favor Islam to win by stoppage and continue ruling the welterweight division. But Garry believes he has the exact tools needed to destroy that prediction. He trusts his movement, his defensive wrestling, his striking, and his ability to remain composed when the pressure rises. And that is what makes this fight so difficult to predict. On paper, Islam appears to have more ways to win. Garry may need to execute the perfect game plan for 25 minutes, while Makachev may only need one mistake to take control. But confidence means nothing once the cage door closes. The predictions will disappear. The arguments will end. The only thing left will be technique, discipline, endurance, and the ability to perform under pressure. Can Ian Machado Garry shock the MMA world and prove that he belongs among the elite? Or will Islam Makhachev once again remind everyone why he is considered one of the most dominant fighters in the sport? Islam versus Garry. Who are you picking to win? If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash the like button and share this video. Subscribe now to Savvy Ropes Boxing for more UFC 330 predictions, reactions, and in-depth fight breakdowns.